So this is our news in Korea on how it covers what's happening in USA. And the last couple of days, they've been showing us all of the protests. They've been showing us the things the ICE people have been doing in Minnesota. And to any just average person, it's pretty obvious that Trump is doing is awful. And I'm showing you guys this stuff to know that you're not alone. People around the world can see what the Trump people are doing. They expose all of the Trump corruption. They expose all the terrible things that Trump's ICE is doing. And for just average person, again, in another country, you can see it. Or the harassment of journalists. They've been showing that. And streets are flooded. Let me show you a little bit more here.
수천 명이 거리로 쏟아져 나왔습니다.
So you can see they show the protests. They even mention students are protesting, which is a big deal. And these are comments coming in from Korea. It's always interesting to get a different point of view. Arrest without a warrant, LOL. Isn't this martial law? Someone writes. Another Korean writes. Martial law without martial law. That's more evil. Another person writes. We need to get our heads together. Depending on who we choose, we can go from the best to the worst country. And another person writes, if a country arrests without a warrant, isn't it a dictatorship? Then what country is a dictatorship? How is it different from China? Another person writes, I support the American people with all my heart. And this is what we're seeing. We're seeing protests all around the country in USA, right? They show you multiple cities, multiple protests. And we can see that, that America's divided. Here's an interview
이곳 뉴욕을 비롯한 미국 동부 지역에는 강력한 한파가 찾아왔습니다. 하지만 시민들
So they have a local person on the street. I think this is New York.
평범한 미국인들도 분노했습니다.
There was no reason for Alex Peretti to get killed or for Renee Good to get killed. This is not the America that I grew up in.
Why would you turn something that's meant to save and protect the public into something that's supposed to hurt it, and even citizens?
And it's hard to explain. Like, I know in USA you feel isolated, but you're not. Like people in other countries can see what's happening and how terrible the Trump people are.
This dystopian future described here of surveillance and repression and state violence, it's what's happening.
And so what you have the Korean media giving Americans a voice, right? It's not just Korean media. Many countries are doing this or showing this stuff. And then when they show Trump speak, listen to what Trump says.
Everybody has this beautiful sign with brand new wood, but we know pretty much who's funding this stuff. These are paid insurrectionists.
So he says a couple things there, right? He says one is, oh, wow, look at all this, new wood in the office and how everything's gold and how awesome. And then he claims that all the protesters are paid, which is obviously a ridiculous, assertion. That stuff Trump would say is all ridiculous. And so that's why they show massive protests in the streets in USA. I mean, we can see what's happening. Also, these are, again, Korean comments. They say, how could anyone possibly think they gave money to protesters? How could they possibly be so similar to some Korean guy? And what they're referring to is the former President Yoon. If you guys don't know, basically the same thing as Trump, except the difference here in Korea, arrested, impeached, already been sentenced to jail, and he's got yet more trials, could end up getting life. His prime minister got 23 years. His wife got, I think, 1.5 years for bribery, all sorts of stuff. Another person writes, they warned Iran, but now they're trying to do the same thing as Iran. And another comment, if you look at Trump, America is a dictatorship. Here's another one. There was someone like that in our country, again, referring to Yoon, or even prior to that, because Korea's had a long history of this stuff, right? There was someone like that in our country too. The last one was prison. Another quote, in the end, the people have to finish it. Another person writes, arrests without warrants are something that only dictatorships do. And this is this should just be a fundamental thing. Like anyone would know this. Like why are you barging into people's houses without warrants, right? And that's the stuff that Trump thinks they can do, is just, send the military on everyone. That's why people are out in the streets protesting. Here's some more comments. And again, you guys are not alone if you're in the USA. Everyone around the world can see this. The fact that even students are coming out is serious. It feels like I'm experiencing this twice, remembering the 3 years of fighting. And this person could be referring to probably most likely the situation in Korea, where, again, Yoon was a similar thing. Or he could be referring to Trump first time around, but I think it's probably referring to the Korean situation. Again, we had a president just like Trump, but arrested, impeached, and then essentially right now all their people under trial. That Trump guy is starting a civil war. Another person writes, arrest without a warrant and execute without a trial. Is that country a democracy? And another person writes, it seems like America's heading for ruin due to civil war. They call the citizens a rebel force. It's cause for impeachment, meaning that, the Trump people are attacking just regular people, right? Calling citizens a rebel force, right? That's when you impeach someone. Many American citizens will suffer. I hope these fears don't become reality. And I just want you to see, though, people do care what's happening in USA. I mean, we're all connected here. We should all care about each other and other countries and just regular people. And that's the sort of imagery that they show Trump, right? They show people protesting him, basically. Let me show you some more, right? And then they had, a guy talking about how he doesn't like Trump, of course. Then they show the things that ICE is doing, right? We can all see it. Let me show you a little bit of this also. This is actually here. They're showing how places are closed due to Trump, right? So America's basically the image is not open for business.
집은 오늘 하루 문을 닫았습니다. 미 전역 250여 개 도시에서 이민 단속에 항의하며 학생들은 수업을
This is
거부하고
the
거리로
students out in
나왔습니다.
protest they're showing.
Although I think a lot of people are like, oh, we're not going to do much. I think that's very inaccurate. We're the next generation. And I think the silence is it's going to make things worse.
시위 확산 속
And again, they
언론
show
탄압
students out in
논란도
protest.
불붙었습니다.
They also talk about the arrest of the journalist, which is very, very important. Again, Korea went through this stuff before, and we don't want to see other countries have to go through this stuff also, meaning the dictatorship kind of things. Like it just looks like America's going backwards, and we can see it. They show the Holman guy, and then they'll show Trump, and then they'll show, we can show this. Then they'll show you, how ICE, whoever these people are, beating down your door and then arresting people out in the cold. I mean, you can all see it with their own eyes, right? And so then they portray the protesters as being essentially fighting for freedom, right? Waving American flags and such against the Trump people. These are more comments. Amazing. They're creating a division in American society in an instant that even China and Russia couldn't do. Another person writes, what are the Republicans in the U.S. doing? They're completely ruining the country. And again, these are from Koreans, so that's not Democrat or Republican. This is from another country, just looking out, from the outside, looking into what's going on in USA. And just like, it's obvious there's this chaos due to Trump. And again, the person says, what are the Republicans in the U.S. doing? They're completely ruining the country. Another person writes, it seems like we're moving towards far-right fascism, constantly making and seeking enemies. And if you just look at what Trump does on a daily basis, he attacks countries all the time. And I guess only the MAGA people cheer that on, like, oh yes, let's make more enemies. Great idea, great plan, right? Opposed to making friends. Another person writes, a president of an immigrant origin in a country, right, of immigrants is laughable in cracking down on immigration. Another person writes, the more Trump acts like this, the more he piles up impeachment mileage. I hadn't heard that one before. Impeachment mileage. If he loses the midterm elections, he'll be impeached. And another person, the students spoke with such truth. We are the masters of future generations. If we neglect them, our lives will become even more difficult. That's why the Republic of Korea fought for independence. And thanks to the bloodshed, our descendants are living so well. I respect the mindset of young American students. And I know you probably get tired of me talking about this, but if you haven't seen the movie 1987, please do. It relates directly to what's happening in USA right now. The movie opens up where basically the government tries to cover up a murder of a protester, basically. And you have to see it for yourself, and it goes through who's all involved with the cover up, and then why do regular people then decide to stand up. And then if you want to look at more of the financial part of it, which is in a similar period, it's called Default. Very interesting movie also. Probably don't hear much about this stuff in USA, but we're all connected here, and I encourage you guys to check out these things. Also, this is our news today. It says, security expert urges Korea to lead middle power coalition. And effectively here in Korea, a lot of people are also inspired by Carney. So in Canada. So essentially, the Koreans are looking at Trump and USA like, that guy's terrible, right? Let's be friends with Carney in Canada, which makes perfect sense, right? Makes perfect sense. And it's not just Korea. Multiple countries are saying, man, I like that Carney guy. Here's the quotes here. Quote, the foundation of Carney's speech comes from what Finnish President Alexander Stubb has been talking about. It's interesting that we're talking about both Finland and Canada here. So Korea has a different point of view than other countries because we're well aware that there are other countries that exist in the world, and we live in Trumpy MAGA land. They think there's only one country in the world, I guess, and it's just not like that. When you leave USA, you'll find out, wow, there's a lot of other countries, a lot of different languages, religions, a lot of different people in the world. So it's interesting. They're getting inspiration from both Canada and Finland here. Quote, the main reason for discussing such a coalition is to ease the U.S.-China confrontation and to restore multilateral order that is now under threat. It's not about creating closed regional blocs. It's about moving toward open regionalism and sharing a common goal, preventing the resurgence of mercantilism. He also goes on to say, there has to be a leader who can bring middle powers together and push a middle power coalition forward. And essentially, what they're talking about here is, Korea could take a role in this stuff, right? He said Korea should be considering playing a more proactive role in uniting middle powers as a global order becomes increasingly shaped by great power rivalry and transactional diplomacy. And then he also references Carney right there. And then our local news here is kind of been a theme to where Korea is looking to do business all around the world and spread, partnerships, deals, sell movies, culture, right? So Korean cinema tells a different story, kind of story at Sundance. And that's something that the Koreans have been doing very, very well with, both the music and movies. And it's real business. Not only are you selling the products abroad, all of the products in the movies, right? Be it your cosmetics, your clothes, your music and stuff. And then you encourage a lot of tourism and just positive sort of image of what Koreans look like abroad. Or now they're talking about selling Korean beef, which is very, very good. It's expensive though, but it's more of a, how can I say it? Like, I don't know if I would call it a luxury kind of good, because we do have it occasionally. We don't eat it every day because it's expensive. Same way with the high quality beef in Japan is also really expensive. It's quite good. But yeah, Korean beef needs K-food branding for global promotion. We'll see how that goes. And then we're preparing for the Winter Olympics, right? And that's kind of our news. And it's a very different contrast than what you see in USA, to where the Trump and the MAGA people want to isolate themselves. And it's so contrast to here, where like everyday news is like, hey, how can we make more partnerships in business around the world? Which obviously the news that you would want to see. And I think Canada's the same kind of situation as well. So Canada and Korea, I see happening very similar things. So that's what's going on. Just wanted to give you a different point of view than you may get in USA. I appreciate your time, and I'll catch you all in the next video.